welcome back to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. My guest today is Mr. Austin Dickson. I'm excited to have him today for a number of reasons, what he's currently doing, what he's done in the past as a player and as a coach at Marion High School, and we're excited to have him. I want to thank Crown Brew. I want to thank Swinford Media and Ross and Abby for all they do to put this together. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising for helping coaches and organizations with their fundraising needs. And two great guys, and Jeff and Matt can take care of all your fundraising situation, and they can help you raise a lot of money. Just do me a favor, do exactly what they say, and good things will happen, I promise you. As I said, today's guest is Mr. Austin Dickson. He is a football and track standout at Marion High School. He was all-conference for 2 years. He was all-South for 2 years. He was all-state in 2010 for the offensive line. He had a short career at SIU, which we'll talk about. It was cut short due to injuries. In my opinion, he was part of maybe the best offensive line that I coached at Marion High School. And we'll talk about that collective group of guys. He was a student, he was an athlete, and he was a leader. He served as a youth pastor. He has been an assistant football coach at Marion. He's an avid Cub fan, an avid Bear fan, and now he is the area rep for Fellowship of Christian Athletes in Williamson and Saline counties.
Yep.
And man, I'm thrilled to have you, Austin. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, this is an honor to be here with you, Coach Martin, and especially other people you've had on the show before, and the podcast and the YouTube. It's just an honor just to be here and to talk about my past, my present, and the future of my ministry.
Well, you and I go way back, and I can even go back and remember when my son played NBA basketball, Marion Basketball Association basketball.
Yeah.
I remember going to these tiny grade school gyms, and this great big kid would be rebounding the basketball and putting it back in, and I remember thinking, that is a big kid, but he's athletic, and you were.
Yeah.
You've always been such a good athlete. I think that really helped in your career. You weren't just a big guy. You're a really good athlete, and I remember that all the way back. I don't know what grade that was or how old you guys were.
That was probably 4th and 5th grade.
That's great. I remember it. But so let's talk about it. You grew up in Marion.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Talk about your family and so forth.
Yeah, born and raised. Well, actually, I was born in Carbondale, but raised in Marion all my life. My mother and my father, John Dickson and Rhonda Dickson. My dad was a Wonder Bread hostess delivery truck driver for many years. My mom worked at Longfellow Elementary School after school program. 2 sisters, Brittany and Bailey. I'm the middle child, so I don't matter. That's just a joke. Older sister Brittany, younger sister Bailey. Brittany was really into sports. I was really into sports, and Bailey was really into like the theater and acting and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was our makeup as a DNA as a family in the younger years.
Was sports a big part of your family? I mean, as far as rooting for teams and Bears.
Oh yeah. My mom was a diehard Cubs fan.
Yeah.
My dad, he's from Chicago. He's a PK, so he bounced around a lot in the Chicagoland area. And he fell in love with the sports up there, and he met my mom when he was in school in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they had an infatuation for the Cubs.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you off the screen. We were talking about 98 with McGuire and Sosa chase. I was 5-6 years old, but I remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got pushed and nudged a little more to the Sosa side, and fell in love with Sammy and his hop after he did home runs, all that stuff. And just my mom fell in love with it. She was a huge Ryan Sandberg fan.
Yeah.
And that was the thrill of it. The sports fun was the Cubs was enthralled into us kids, and I really took to it. Bailey not so much, and then Brittany, she enjoyed it. She played softball. She had a good athletic career as well.
Yeah.
But that was life.
Those are good memories.
Yeah.
You know, and that 98 baseball season was full of good stuff. And the excitement of the chase and you know, I think some people say it saved baseball. I don't know if that's overly dramatic, but
No, I don't.
Certainly it added something that baseball needed at that time. Those two guys chasing that home run record. And
I go back and watch highlights of that stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. The balls that were just launched out of the stadiums. I mean, you had Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, all these other guys, but those two guys really put on a show that year.
They did, and there were some intersections too between the two teams playing playing each other when the
rivalry.
record was it was
Cubs and Cardinals first off,
Yeah.
and then you had those two highlights.
Oh, it
and
was good.
they loved on each other as well.
They did.
They pushed each other, and just the documentary was really cool. I think it was Road to 66 was a documentary. Great documentary on that whole situation.
I think there's a lot we can learn from the competition for that and the way they handled it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It couldn't be any more intense, but it was handled the right way. And I hope young people could see that today. And sometimes we think that rivalries result in flexing over people and trash talking.
Yeah.
But those two guys handled it at the highest professional level as far as their demeanor to each other. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it was really cool. It was a cool thing to see. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But
Fun.
so growing up playing sports, I know you played football, of course, but what else did you do?
So I did soccer, baseball, were my two biggest things. And to be honest with you, that was my passion at first was soccer.
Really?
Loved soccer, was on all the all-star teams growing up as a kid. Just fell in love with it. My dad coached me. Baseball was awesome as well. So those were my two biggest passions. And a funny story is it got to about fifth grade when things started really changing for me for sports. I was playing soccer in a game, and I think I was mostly goalie. And they moved me out to midfield. One, that's too much running. But I wanted the ball so badly. This is fifth grade. I'm starting to develop a little bit. I'm getting bigger.
Yeah.
Soccer's probably not your sport, but I was still holding on to that dream. I tackled the kid. Just straight tackled him because I wanted the ball. I was done with it. And my dad was a coach. I did get a red flag, a red card, and I had to go off. And I think he looked at me and said, "I think it's time for football." But that was how my passion started, was being coached by my dad. My dad, he worked a lot at Hostess, but he made time to come back and coach me. Yeah. I think that made a huge impact on my life. Having one of my first coaches be my father, but also telling me I think it's time for football. And then he got involved with football in the sixth grade, and that's when it really started kicking off for me, the passion of football.
Yeah. Did you, some of the guys you played with in high school, they were your teammates in the grade school level?
Yeah, for football, soccer, all of it.
Yeah.
One that comes to mind is Aaron Adewe. He was a big soccer guy as well. He played for the Ravens eventually. But I remember one time starting a game, he kicked off from the midfield against me, the other team goalie. He put it in the back top right corner from the start of the game. This was like third, fourth grade. I went, how do I stop that? But yeah, those type of guys, and like Matt Griffith and all these other guys that played sports with us, bringing that brotherhood already at a very young age. You could tell something was going to come together.
Yeah, I know Derek Borum had mentioned that, and Will Cappy, the softball coach at Carterville, had mentioned to me, and other coaches have too. Jay Thompson mentioned it about keeping the kids, almost wanting to keep kids together so they can build that camaraderie and that bond at a young age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And there's a thread in these interviews I've done, almost 40 episodes, and there's some common threads, and one of them is that early. Great teams develop something. It's almost like before high school. It's already in there.
Yeah.
It's you guys who you played with, bonds you've made, relationships you have.
Yep.
It matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So when you get to high school, football program is going through some winning ways, and and you were excited to be a part of that, I assume.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about your high school career. So you started. What's the first year you started?
Late sophomore year, but mostly junior year. I got some reps in sophomore year, but mostly junior, senior year.
What stands out in your mind about your high school career?
Fun.
Yeah.
It was a blast. You talked about the brotherhoodship, especially being an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ownership in being an offensive lineman. Not a lot of people can play the position because it's a position that nobody really wants to talk about unless something negative happens, a hold or clip, or whatever it may be. Yeah. But I took ownership of it really quickly. Freshman year, I did it in high or junior high. Freshman year came along. We needed a center, and Matt raised his hand first. Griffith, the head football coach at Harrisburg High School, and he was the center. I became the guard, and it blossomed from there. But just the one word I would say is fun. Like, we made it fun.
You know, as a coach, and right now for me, in my tenure at Marion, we tended to have a number of skill guys year after year, but we went through a period we were short of linemen. Big linemen, good size, good athletic linemen. And a lot of times we had to piece some things together and play some guys both ways. And I remember when your class was coming, even I think the '09 and the 10 team had a decent number of linemen, big, strong, athletic linemen. And we were so excited because we were able to do some things we couldn't otherwise have done.
Yeah.
And one of those things was run the football.
Oh, absolutely. And before we talk more about that, as a freshman, I got to see the transformation of the Marion program.
Yeah.
With the Adam Burns, the Derek Borums, the Matt Browns, guys you've had on the podcast before.
Yeah.
And we took ownership of that to keep the tradition rolling.
Yeah.
Because I got to see it firsthand on the sidelines. I was on the sideline for that all-tough crazy game as a freshman, waving the towel and going crazy and going, I want to continue this.
Yeah.
So I think that was something important for us moving forward when we got closer to our time and those big bodies and running the football.
Yeah, you guys certainly did. And I know that after the 7 semifinal season, in 8, 9, and 10, we won playoff games those next 3 years. I mean, we were moving into the next round, and we went through a good run. But I think the offensive linemen had a lot to do with that. We were good up front, and I can go back. I think it was 2009. We're in the playoffs, and we were not moving the ball that well, and we went to our tight offense against Decatur MacArthur.
Yep.
And we whipped their tail in the second half in the tight offense. And I talked to their coach at a clinic in the offseason, and he said, I thought when you went to your tight offense, game was over, we were going to win because we thought we could stop you. But he goes, your offensive line won that ball game.
Yeah.
And Aaron McFadden and some
Zach
other guys,
Irwin.
Zach Irwin.
Yeah.
We had a great game on a muddy field.
Yep.
Oh, I
Cold.
love that game. Oh, yeah, it was great.
You said, let's go tight. We'd go orange.
Orange,
and I said, let's go.
Yeah. It's funny how when we would call for that tight offense, your group for a couple of years there, I mean, you got stoked. You got excited.
That's when practice was fun.
Yeah. And you guys had so many good running backs go through, Terania Stanley and Aaron McFadden, and then the leading rusher in Southern Illinois one year, Shaquille Ivey.
Yeah.
That was a great combination of that line and a running back like that.
Yeah. And I'll take pride in that, of knowing he was the Southern Illinois Player of the Year.
He
that
was.
Year. Shaq was his junior year. And I was honored that he was the Southern Illinois Player of the Year. And we took pride in that, the 5 of us up front.
Well, and again, and Shaq would say this, I mean, as good as he was, and he was special, he doesn't do it without you guys up front. I mean, awards like that are team awards, really. He got the award.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
He was the best player in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
But it's a team effort. And anything in football you win individually, you got to shake a lot of hands and say thank you, because that was a great combination. And we played Springfield High School in the second round at home in a great football game, back and forth, and we were driving to win the game, and we came up a little bit short. But you said that you won, you were named All-State that season at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And let's talk about you getting your award for that.
Yeah. Crazy. The last play of the game, of the Springfield High game, the quarterback, Brett Bradley, who did a good job managing the season. That was his first interception all year.
The whole year.
Whole year. Couldn't believe it. It took a lot of time to process the loss, because we had a really good team, and we had thoughts of playing at Champaign.
Yeah.
So I did receive first team All-State that year. I was shocked by it. I didn't expect it coming. I got an email saying this is boom, bada bing. I think it was pigskin.com is where I saw the old website. And you get the plaque at the state championship game.
Yeah.
The 5A state championship game. It was the morning game that Saturday. And I didn't want to go. I had no intentions of going, because I'll be honest with you, Coach, it was hard not to play in that game.
Yeah.
We put a lot of effort, but I did it to honor my team.
Yeah.
I did it to honor the offensive line and honor Shaq and everything in yourself. So I drove up that morning with my family, received my plaque at 9:30 in the morning. You should see the picture. It's probably out there somewhere of all 12 of us receiving the plaque.
Yeah.
Nobody is smiling, because all 12 of us that received it, from Joliet Catholic, whoever may have been in the 5A state or IHSA players, nobody wanted to take that picture. They wanted to play the game.
I love that.
And I took my plaque, and my mom said, "You want to stay?" I said, "Nope." Well, let's go home. So I didn't even stay for the game. Couldn't tell you who won.
Yeah.
But I did it to honor
Yeah.
yourself,
Well,
the Marion football team, because it was a special team.
It was.
And there was a lot of passion, a lot of pride, and to honor the game for the team to go up there that morning. So that's why I went there and received it.
That offensive line had Tyler Wools, Matt Griffith, yourself, of course, Patrick Clark, Zach Peterson.
Yeah, monsters. Big guys.
We did the math one time. The average height was like 6'3", and the average size was like 280 or something. This is a high school offensive line.
Yeah. Tyler was 6'7", Patrick was 6 foot tall, Matt was 6'3", I was 6'3", and Peterson was about 6'4".
Yeah.
It was just a big guy. And Zach was a move-in from Florida.
Yeah.
He had moved in his junior year.
Yeah.
And that was a huge pickup for us.
My play calling was pretty simplified, but I looked really smart that year.
Yeah.
That's what great players will do for you.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I appreciate the story, and again, that just so fits you that you just could not settle in and watch that ball game. So great playing career. Let's talk about track for a second, because you weren't just a football player. You also, and by the way, I need to mention this, and I mean this with as a positive thing. Sometimes big kids can be a little passive. I think we have theories about this, that a lot of times when you're bigger, people tell you to take it easy on everybody when you're little, and it may be that's the real reason or not.
Sure.
You had a mean streak in you. And I mean from the snap to the whistle.
Yeah.
Not in a dirty way.
No.
Just a streak of, I'm okay with knocking someone's block up.
It's funny that you say that, because I would pick them up after the play and tell them this is going to happen all game, but I would be nice to them. But my mean streak came from this mentality. I pretended my mother was the quarterback. And I said, you're not going to touch my quarterback. You're not going to touch my running back, because that's my mom back there. To be honest with you, that's how I played the game.
That's awesome.
And I said, nope. So that's where the mean streak came from. But off the field, teddy bear.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you need, I'll give it to you. But on the field, no.
Yeah,
But the problem is, it's a mean game in those trenches. You
Yeah,
can't be nice.
Well, I mean, look, let's face it. I mean, Darryl Wimberly is the best heart of like anybody I know. But when you get Wimbo talking about playing football and his eyes change, and the intensity comes on, he knows from snap to whistle, it's a football game on. And so it's funny you mentioned that about helping people up. I spoke at a conference, and I was telling them one of my favorite pictures outside my office in the hallway where the pictures are is a picture of a Carbondale kid down on the ground. And there are 5 Marion guys with their hands out. You can see the picture offering to help him up.
It's awesome.
And I said, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than physically taking a player down and then offering him help up and then letting him know, and we're going to do this again.
Yeah, it's a mental game.
And instead of flexing over someone or taunting them, there's something about helping someone up, knowing that we're coming again, and this is going to continue. I just love that.
Yeah.
I just love that. And you mentioned you were okay with pulling and hitting somebody and annihilating them and helping them up and doing it again the next play. There's something sweet about that.
It was awesome.
So let's talk about track. So you're a thrower, obviously.
So I did that all 4 years. I actually played freshman basketball under Jeff Tarleton, and we had like 22 guys on the freshman team. I think they kept some guys just to keep them, and that group dispersed away, and they got smaller and smaller. But then I focused really on track and field, mainly because of Coach Gibbons.
Sure.
Coach Gibbons had a huge impact on my life. I wanted to be around Coach, but he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And throwing the shot put and the discus is very technical, and it's not just brute strength. Now, if you have some strength, it's going to help a long way. But being where your foot goes and the release and inches here means feet out there was a huge thing that Glenn would tell us, is the farther the ball gets out here, it's going to go less out there. You want to keep it nice and tight in the neck. And so just being involved with that. At first, the freshman, sophomore year, it was kind of a way of me and Matt and some of our buddies. It was just having a good time.
Yeah.
But junior and senior year, it got serious for us, especially with track. Football was really serious all the time. Coach Gibbons can attest to that. We were knuckleheads sometimes with me and Griff. and Tyler are throwing the shot put, especially giving us 12-pound weights and throwing at each other. I don't know if that's the best idea, but we had fun with it. But it's senior year. It got really serious.
Yeah.
And a quick story I shared with you off screen that I'd share with now of how passionate I was about it. The sectional track meet was at Troy Triad that year, the same night as my graduation. And I said, what do I do here? And the week, I think the mark was 50 feet, 11 inches you had to hit to go to state. That bounces back year to year. If Glenn was here, he would tell me exactly what the distance was. And that week of practice, I hit 50 feet, 7 inches. And I said, I got a chance to go represent Marion at state.
Yeah.
And the track program now is really successful. It always has been. And I was honored to do that.
Yeah.
So I decided not to go to my graduation that night. I still graduated. I got my diploma and everything. But I didn't get that chance to walk across the stage. But it was worth it. I threw 50 feet, 4 inches at the sectional track meet. So I didn't get to go to state, but I would do it all over again.
It always bothered me that they had that conflict existed. It seemed like it existed far too many years that people had to miss graduation or make a choice. And man, that's really tough. Now, when your playing time was over, track's over, football's over, you decided to play some college football.
Yeah.
And you went to SIU. Let's talk about that experience.
Yeah. So myself, Matt Griffith, and Tyler Wolves, all three offensive linemen, decided to go walk on SIU. The recruiting process, I didn't really dive into a whole lot. High school football was life. Yeah. Track football was life. I wasn't thinking outside of. Yeah. I just really wasn't. And I was pretty good. I thought I could go play somewhere, and I had an opportunity to go to SEMO as well. And I turned that down. They offered a partial, and I said no. I want to go with my buddies. So I got there and excited to start the next step of hey, this is college football. Let's play.
Right.
I thought I could play in college football, get stronger and trim some fat a little bit and whatnot. And I had suffered some concussions in high school that I didn't really tell a whole lot of people about because it was still 7, 8, 9. You could get away with it a little bit. I mean, that's not a good thing. No, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. But you get your bell rung, is what they would say. Right. And I remember a couple plays against Mount Vernon and Carbondale. I got my bell rung, but fought through it. Got to work out in the summer at SIU and got to like the first week of practice. And that first week of practice, there was a transfer that moved in from some D1 school. I don't remember who his name was. Big old dude. He looked like Ndamukong Suh. They used to play for the Lions. I'm not even joking. I thought it was Ndamukong the first day. I said, I'm going to die. And well, I almost did. He was the starting nose tackle, and I was fresh meat. So I was in there as a practice guy, and I went to pool like I normally do, and he came across, and this was a little different than Mount Vernon coming across or Springfield High. And one of the podcasts you talked about the speed of the game, and it was power in my instance. And collision, my head went back, I got my bell rung. And the next time I woke up, I was in the trainer's room. I somehow got to the trainer's room, and it scared me big time. Sure. And this was a time when CTE was coming out. Brett Favre was on ESPN when I opened my eyes from my concussion, talking about his CTE. Yeah. And I said, And I would struggle the next 6 months with light, being around people. I could go to class, and I had to go back to my dorm room and just sit there in the dark with a cold rag over my head. Very serious, very real, and it was out in the open. ESPN was talking about it.
Everybody was talking
and it was
about
it. It's good that we're talking about it.
Of course, and it needed to be because it.
And I'm a huge advocate now.
Yeah,
when kids, when I'm on the field or something, and somebody gets hit, I'm like, we got to take a look at this. The wobbliness, the dead arm, the eyes glazed over. I had it all in that moment, and I had to make a decision. After the season ended, went into my old lineman's coach's room, turned in my book, and I said, I need to go talk to Lennon. And I said, hey, I think this is time to walk away. And it was the hardest decision in that point in my life. To step away from something that I just put 6 years of. Now, I believe in Jesus Christ, but my faith has grown so much more since those ended because those 6 years everything was football.
Yeah.
I didn't care about girls. I didn't care about school. I got B's and A's and just kind of whatever. But football was life.
Yeah.
And when the bell was rung for the last time, I had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I was confused. My mom and dad were like, hey, maybe just work through it a little bit. But they took my health serious as well. And I said, okay, I'm going to hang it up. And at that point, I had gained like 50 more pounds because I was depressed. I was up to like 380 pounds. And I didn't know what to do. And it was just, it was a very crossroads at a very young age.
Yeah.
Sitting here now at 31 years old, at 19, 20, what do you do now?
Yeah.
So I don't know where we're going with the next question or anything, but like I came to you and I asked you, because I want to still be part of football.
Sure.
I said, hey, Coach Martin, is there anything I could do for Marion football? And in my head, I was like, can I be a water boy? Can I be a towel boy? I'm serious. Like I said, anything I could do.
Yeah.
And I think you looked at me and said, how about being the freshman offensive line coach? And I said, sure.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beginning of my coaching career at a young age, at 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that was my SIU. Nothing but good things about SIU. Just injuries happen.
Yeah, and you're right about, we've learned so much more, Austin. And I think about the adjustments we made as a coaching staff after you played over the next 10 years we bought the tackling rings and took the tackling out of each other. We wore the guardian caps. We bought guardian caps for the entire team. We just changed everything. We changed the way we practiced. We changed the contact. And we started, and we all learned we had to take the head out of tackling.
Yeah.
Well, the irony of all of this is when this all started happening, everyone screamed they were making football. It's going to make football worse. It made football better, because what we've learned is when you put the head in tackling, it actually makes tackling worse. It's more dangerous, number one, for the ball carrier and the tackler.
Yeah.
But it's also, we're not seeing what we hit. And we got back to tackling with our shoulders and our eyes up.
Yeah.
And really, what we thought was going to ruin the game saved the game, because football was in jeopardy.
It was.
And I think the coaches, and my hat's off to the coaches and the organizations and the NFL for saying, we can still play, but there's a better way to play.
Absolutely.
And my last few years of coaching, I thought the tackling got better because we were changing that technique and taking the head out. Listen, when I was in high school, everybody led with their head.
Yeah.
That's what people did, like a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
I shudder to think about the head trauma that I had as a young player, and no one thought a thing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I appreciate everything you shared, because that's honest, and I hope kids are more likely to report things that happen now.
Absolutely. Please do.
Yeah, because it's not worth it.
No, it's not. I mean,
no. So your coaching time. Let's talk about your coach at Marion High School.
Yep.
For a number of years.
Yeah, I think it was 8.
And
total.
just did a phenomenal job. You were one of those guys that went straight from the playing field to the coaching with us. Took to it, as my dad would say, like a duck to water, and we were blessed, brother. But the thing that I think, the passion, the enthusiasm, and the energy you brought was contagious. And I want to say that I think what you did in the off season was just as important as what you did in season. And what I mean by that, and you could explain, you were in that weight room in the off season with those kids.
Yeah.
And you were what I called a kid magnet, man. Kids wanted to be around you, and you made that off season fun, something they want to be a part of. Tell me about your passion for that.
Yeah. I love the X's and O's of coaching. I mean, who doesn't? But the heart that's my ministry. And building a relationship with kids and on the field was great. But there was something when it was off season. What are you doing? How are you making yourself better to prepare for the next season? If you're not playing another sport, a lot of guys did. They went and wrestled. They played basketball. They did track and field. And I coached track and field as well, so I got to take some time off during that as well. But we called ourselves the Tanks because there was a lot of offensive linemen, defensive linemen at first. And it was just a time to give them opportunity to work on their craft at a young age. And I made it fun for them. We would have a workout. There was a gentleman that did a lot of offensive line stuff with NFL people named Charles Bentley. And I fell in love with it. I remember coming to you one day. I said, hey, this guy's got this program. Can we buy it? Because I didn't have any money. I was a college kid eating ramen noodles. And you were like, yes, let's buy it.
Do it,
and it was awesome. It was just an off-season program designated for offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And that was weight training, but it was placement of hand and working on your feet and working with your hands when you got on the guy and your shoulder. I mean, it was just all of it. And I just fell in love with it, just mastering the craft of the position. Because I think offensive line is not just brute strength, power. It is technique. It is leverage. It is all this stuff, and teaching those kids. That was where I fell in love.
Well, I know that the combination of you and Coach Skeet, and we had Michael Wynn, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but we went through some really good line coaches, and you guys together, knowing that our linemen were in great hands. It kind of spoiled us because we were blessed.
Yeah, and I can't say any more good things than I have off screen about Coach Skeet. Was one of the best coaches I've ever had, teaching me the position. And he's done it for so long at Marion High School. I have nothing but good things to say about Skeet. And I said, hey, I'm your freshman offensive line coach. He goes, heck yeah, let's go. I just have built that relationship with him. And so it's been awesome.
That's the beauty of it. And Wald is such a good teacher. And I remember when we brought Dennis Strust in for a couple of years, and here's a Hall of Fame coach and a line guy, and Walt said, bring him, let's do it. You know, there was no, he was glad. He just wants to do what's best for the kids. And so it's been a really cool situation to have all of you guys taking care of our linemen, because they can be forgotten. And it starts with the trenches, man. And I appreciated everything you did, but we got to move, because I got to get to where you're at now.
Sure. No, you're good. Yeah.
I could do the football thing all day.
So,
but it's funny as you describe everything you just said about coaching. There's a lane there for ministry, relationships, passion, energy, focus. I mean, kids, working with kids. And so you begin to find that you went into youth ministry. Let's talk about that.
So in 2018, I kind of stepped away from coaching a little bit and focused on being a youth pastor up in Benton. And just there was a call in my heart. I got saved going into my senior year of high school, but I didn't surrender my life to Christ until about 3 or 4 years later. I think there's a key difference there of accepting Jesus, but also then surrendering everything to him. And I was all in for Jesus. Everything about him. I wanted more of him. And that kind of got me a job at a church. 2018 to about 2022. I did that for 4 years. A lot of things happened in those 4 years of life. I got married during that time. I lost my mother during that time of COVID. So there was great highs, but really lows in ministry, and working inside the church. Sometimes it's difficult. To be
it's a challenge.
There on Sunday mornings and Wednesdays, and people expect things from you. Being a youth pastor and being a pastor is one of the toughest positions, I think, in America. Is being a pastor of a church.
I 100% agree.
And I pray for them every single day, those who are being shepherds and leading people to the Lord. That is a difficult position to take. And those who are doing it well, bravo to them.
People talk about coaching being such a difficult job. It doesn't even compare with what the pastors have to do. As you said, expectations, leading a church. Thank you for saying that. Most recently, though, you made a decision to go to work for FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And you became the area rep for Williamson and Saline County. Let's talk about how that came about.
So after 2022, I stepped away from being the youth pastor, and it was just time to move on. There was split in the church and all that stuff and whatnot. And FCA has always been a big part of my life. I did it in high school. You were my huddle leader. I did it in college as well with Roger Lipe a little bit, and I'd known Roger also as well outside of just college ministry. Talk about FCA, and it found me at a yard sale. The job did at would be the area director, Brian Lawler's yard sale, where I didn't know who he was because I was just doing it as a hobby. I like going finding things and whatnot, and I've been stirred to his house, and we got to talk about Jesus, and I just quit my job at Benton, or moved on, I should say, and Cesar and Benton are really close to each other, and so on and whatnot. An hour went by. I was at his house. And eventually it led to another conversation at O'Charlie's here in Marion. Like a week later, he found out who I was.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, I am Brian Lauer. I'm with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I'm the area director of Southern Illinois. Would you have any interest in being on staff with Fellowship of Christian Athletes? And I said, what? That's a joke.
Yeah.
Did Coach Martin put you up to this? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I think I said those exact words. And he said, no, we are looking for an area rep for Williamson and Saline County. Actually, at first it was Williamson and Jackson, and I took on Saline. I thought Williamson and Jackson were too much at one time. So I began that process late in 23, and just that was the beginning of this relationship with FCA, where I'm on staff.
That's a cool story because, you and Brian meet up you're just buying stuff at a yard sale and end up having a conversation, man. Very providential, I think.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you've been doing this for now a year.
Year and a half.
About over, I was going to say over a year.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been through training with in Kansas City, and you do. Let's talk about the staff. So who are the people in your area? You want to give them a shout out because I know you work closely with people in FCA.
Yeah. So area director Brian, he serves as the area director of Southern Illinois.
Brian Lahr.
Yep. And he lives in Cesar. Alicia is his admin assistant, and she does a lot for me as well. And she's amazing. You need those people outside the field ministry to really help you with the technological stuff, and invaluable. I mean, it's just incredible.
Sure.
And then Britt Fullerton is up in the Mount Vernon area, and he's been on staff the longest of the four of us. Or Alicia might be on staff longer as a part-time assistant, but Britt's been on there as an area rep the longest. I think 4.5 years. He's probably going to watch this and go, no, you're wrong. No, that's our team here in Southern Illinois.
Gotcha.
That's rolling right now.
And a local guy, Bob Pankey, who was the head football coach at Benton, longtime assistant there, is also.
So he was the state director, but he just got a new position, regional director. I forget his title every single time.
Yeah.
But he's moved his way up very quickly.
He has.
And he's an incredible man. And
absolutely.
I've had a lot of good conversations with Bob.
Yeah.
And he encourages me every time I get to see him. And he encourages me. So it's incredible to have somebody local, because we had the state director right in my backyard.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to have for the whole state when I came on staff a year and a half ago. So, yeah, he's done great work.
Well, when Roger Light stepped down and I worried about the future, and then we've got this new team, and I thank the Lord that he found the right people to start serving. So let's talk about the job itself.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your duties first of all.
Yeah.
What is it that Austin Dickson does as the area rep for 2 counties? What do you do?
Yeah. Engage, equip, empower these coaches and athletes in Southern Illinois, but specifically here in Williamson and Saline County.
Right.
That's the motto, the E3 motto, I should say, for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, is to engage these coaches where they're at, to equip them, and then thus they can empower these kids and make disciples. It's to and through the coach is the motto as well. And that's my main duty, is the coaches.
Yeah.
It's pouring into that coach. That coach has so much influence and so much impact. Me personally, would not be here today without the impact of my high school football coach. Made a difference in my life. Now, if you didn't care and you were just a half-you-know-what coach, it'd make a difference in a negative way.
Yeah.
But a coach that cares, that loves and encourages, that rises men up or women up is crucial. Yeah. And I think that's something that's just been laid on my heart, is to help these coaches here in Southern Illinois. And I get to hang out with coaches or with students as well, and go to the huddles and have interactions with them. But really pouring into those coaches is the ministry here in Southern Illinois.
I don't mean to put you on. I appreciate everything you just said, and I agree with you. Coaches have this unique platform of influence, And it is, with great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah.
right? Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, but I put you on the spot when I say, do you know how many huddles there are in Southern Illinois offhand?
I would say there's over 50.
Okay. So how many huddles are you responsible for in the 2 counties you have?
So me personally, I have 17 huddles
Oh,
that I'm
my
in charge
gosh.
of.
That's a lot.
And a huddle is like Marion High School has a school huddle.
Yes.
That's ran by Cody Pauls. Harrisburg High School has a huddle ran by Greg Davis, so on and whatnot.
Right.
But then there's also huddles that are like a football huddle.
Oh,
like
I got you.
JD at Marion Football is the huddle. Sailor Shirts at Heron High School is the basketball huddle.
I got you.
So that I have 17 of those
Okay.
just in Williamson and Saline County. And my guess is probably more than 50. 'Cause
Yeah.
if I have 17, I'm sure Britt has more. I mean, so
Right.
there's only 3 of us, but FCA is transitioning to very relational,
Yeah.
where I am inside the county lines. And what Roger Light did before we came on staff, incredible.
Yeah.
One man on a mission, and I could not say anything but good things about him. But he said he had 66 counties.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
28 counties, he said.
he had 28 counties, or
By himself.
At one time, I thought it was 30 plus.
I mean,
By himself. I don't know how he did it.
bravo. Like I've told Roger that many times, but they said when he stepped down, what do we do? Well, let's get more guys
Yeah.
and ladies inside the county lines.
Yeah.
And that's your job. I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about Mount Vernon. I don't have to worry about, but no, I do.
Sure.
I still care about it,
Right.
but I'm really going after El Dorado. I'm really going after Crab Orchard, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it is a powerful thing to know the weekly contact you're having with these coaches and helping them lead
Yeah.
better, because
Yeah.
coaches, they have the intention, they want to do it,
Yeah.
but a lot of them don't know exactly what to do. And I think you and I have talked many times, had coffee right here in this location many times, and talked about these huddles are life-changing. They are bringing kids to Jesus Christ.
Amen.
They are changing those kids in the huddle. It's changing their teams,
Yeah.
and it's changing the school.
Yes.
But here's the key. The huddles work best when the kids
Amen.
start taking the lead, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we've really poured into the last 2 years, working with Nathan Emmerich a lot over at Carterville High School.
Yeah.
He does a lot of Lead 'em Up. It's a different program, but we've started a leadership summit these last 2 years at SIU Carbondale. I think
And I've been there, and it's outstanding.
and we bring in all 18 counties from Salem to Cairo to River
Yep.
to River, and we tell these schools, hey, the huddle leaders, if you're a huddle leader, I'd say, hey, Kerry, I need you to give me 3 or 4 who you think are your student leaders.
Yeah.
And we bring them in all together, feed them lunch, but we give them the tools of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I tell them what I'm doing, because the ministry is only going to grow as much as they're participating,
Yeah.
as they're all in for it. It can't be me.
No.
If it's always me leading or Brian's leading, this ministry does not move forward.
What I think is the interesting challenge, and I hope I explained this well, I hope I'm not confusing anybody, but the coach gets this thing going. He brings the kids in.
Yeah.
But the irony is the coach can't always lead it week after week. That can work.
Sure.
But it works best when that coach finds some student leaders.
Yeah.
And every time I had that, it took off.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep. And I see it now. And,
Yeah.
And one example that comes to mind is Heron High School.
Yeah.
And it is growing. I mean, there's 90 to 100 kids there every Friday.
That is beautiful.
And it is ran by Chris Roberts and Sailor Shirts. And they do an incredible job letting their students lead it.
Yeah. So for you, let's talk about, okay, so this is what you're doing. You're going to practices. You're going to huddle meetings. You're going to contests. You're going to games.
Yeah.
You're texting coaches.
Constantly.
You're making all these contacts every week.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge?
Yeah, so this is something I've really leaned into this last year. So there's a lot of field ministry to this job,
Right.
but there is a lot of donor ministry to this job.
Yeah.
And at first, I really took donor ministry and field ministry and made them separate. In reality, it's one ministry.
Okay.
And I think a challenge for me is trying to make that one.
Gotcha.
And not think I got to go have these conversations to go get more resources for these schools, whether it's wristbands or Bibles or sending kids to camp. If a coach needs money for whatever reason, I want to support them in that.
Gotcha.
And I think that's been one of my biggest challenges for me is figuring out how to merge the two and make it organic and just flow
Right.
nicely and smoothly. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I think that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I'm very open about all this. I love the field ministry. I can go talk the talk and walk the walk with all these coaches and all this stuff, especially football. I can talk the language.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I've really loved about the ministry as well, is I get to have conversations with basketball coaches and cheerleading coaches and tennis coaches. I don't know that lingo. There's a different lingo.
Oh, absolutely.
Between a football coach and a basketball coach.
Oh, absolutely.
A baseball practice versus a tennis practice.
Yes.
So that's one of the craziest, most fun parts of my job, is to go talk to these coaches and learn their language. But the challenge is now you got to go have a conversation about bringing more resources in.
Yeah.
And everybody, money is tight for everybody.
Sure.
And resources. It doesn't even have to be money. It could just be, I need you to volunteer.
Yeah.
I need you to pray for me. It's just different things like that. Merging it in with the field ministry, that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I've talked with our area director, our multi-area director, and he talks about a successful FCA ministry merges them together.
That's great.
And not you worried about money.
Yeah.
Because that will wear on you.
Yeah.
And that has worn on me a little bit. Just sometimes where I'm like,
sure,
it's getting a little low, or I need
Yeah.
and it's not for me. It's for these kids. It's for these coaches. It's for these areas. Those resources are for them.
You have to raise money.
Absolutely.
And you do it in a number of ways.
Yep.
It's the reality of the job.
Yep.
And I know that it's part of it, not always the most fun part, where you've got to seek out financial support. You've got monthly donors.
Yep. Called AMPs, Automatic Monthly Partners.
Say it again. Automatic monthly partners.
Yep. Love those.
You have that. It's a consistent income flow of resource
Very
money.
thankful.
And then you have one-time donors.
Yep, love those as well. Very
You
thankful.
also do fundraisers. You've done a trivia, and for some reason, you keep holding the trivia night every time I go on vacation. I don't know if it's to avoid me. Maybe you're worried I might win the whole thing. No, I'm joking, but I know you do that. Other fundraisers, we have a banquet coming up we'll talk about in just a second.
Yep.
And that's for FCA.
For Southern Illinois.
For Southern Illinois.
I'm going to do a golf scramble this year.
Oh, very good.
I don't know anything about golf. I'm learning the game of golf right now a little bit, but it's very successful around here. And Brian's going to help me out with that.
Yeah.
The golf scramble.
You have recently started your own board.
Yep.
So you've got a group of people that are on your board.
Yep.
Hold you accountable.
Yep.
Advise.
Yep.
Help.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's something that FCA really pours into you, is just surrounding yourself with people who are going to fill you up, who are going to recharge you.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's very crucial.
Yeah.
Because ministry can burn you out very quickly, especially if you feel like you're on an island.
Yeah.
And sometimes FCA, you can feel like an island.
Sure.
Because you are I still have 17 huddles. Like, I feel like I'm running to El Dorado one day and Heron the next, and just I'm by myself. And Brian and Britt do a good job of bringing that together. But I have some people around me, including yourself. My pastor, a buddy of mine, Colton Nolan, has encouraged me. I go to him and talk to him about a lot of things. Bridget Douglas has been a huge help for me as well. And Riley Swinford as well. I've had great conversations with Riley about just the business side of it, the marketing side of it, the advertising, the scriptures. Like, I kind of 4 or 5 different people to help me in different ways to keep me in check and keep this ministry in check, which is crucial.
Yeah.
It's helped me a lot, and it's something that I'm really going to pour into 2025. So I'm very thankful that those 4 individuals have said yes to wanting to encourage and love Williamson and Saline County and Southern Illinois FCA.
Yeah, and I know that your passion for this is evident every time you get a chance to speak, every time you get a chance to lead, or you're somewhere and you get that platform to talk about FCA. It's infectious. Even at our board meetings, I've been blown away at your ability to sell, and I mean that in the best way, the importance of FCA and why it matters. The last several years, Southern Illinois FCA has put on an event called the Fields of Faith.
Yep.
They come to a football field at Benton or at Marion. huddles gather, student huddles gather, the leaders speak,
Yep.
and the testimonies of those kids are
Incredible.
life-changing. And I tell the story, one year I was supposed to give the closing message after 6 kids gave their testimony.
Yeah.
And I went up there and I took my speech and I tore it up and said, there is nothing I can say
Praise God.
that's going to be better than what they just said. So
Amen.
let's just be thankful for what we heard here tonight.
Yeah.
Because the testimonies of those students were heartfelt, honest.
Yep.
They were powerful, they were uplifting,
Let's
and they
go.
were eye-opening.
Yeah.
Like some of them were like, wow, kids on the verge of taking their life. And the Lord interceded and changed their life. And they were powerful testimonies. And
Yeah.
every single year Fields of Faith has that impact. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing you're doing.
Yeah. It's encouraging to hear that. It's real.
It's real.
And I think that's something that needs to be talked about. These kids and coaches, but I'm talking about the kids a lot right now in this segment.
Yeah.
They're looking for truth.
Amen.
They don't want phonies.
Nope.
They don't want fakes.
They see through everything.
They see through everything. And if you're real with them, you share the gospel, they're wanting to know about the gospel.
They are.
They want the truth because they see
agree.
the TikToks, they see the Instagrams, they see the government. We don't want that. Give us that book.
Yeah.
Give us that gospel message of Jesus Christ and His ministry and what those red letters mean.
Yeah, it's so true, Austin. And I've been moved, and I know that I think I said this a couple of years ago, but I've said it on here I think before. Maybe I said it to Roger, but every year someone says we've never needed FCA more than we need it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've been involved with FCA since I was a junior in high school. That goes back a long ways. And we were saying it back then. In 2025, we're saying it. And I think it's so true, more today than ever before.
Yeah.
And there is a chance here for something special to happen. And so I want to encourage people who are watching, who are listening. And you wonder, when we give money to organizations and charitable causes, they're all wonderful, St. Jude's or whatever you give money to. Some things we give, we know the impact. Some things we give, we hope the impact is there.
Yeah.
I want people to know, when you give to FCA,
Yeah.
it is the real deal.
Amen.
It is changing lives right here in our communities in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
And in a beautiful way. And I appreciate you. This is the combination of everything you're passionate about into one job.
Yeah, that's why when Brian told me, would you want this job, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Sports, Jesus, let's do it. And there's a reason why FCA has been around for 70 plus years.
That's right.
Because they are making a difference.
Amen.
And I'm a testament to it as somebody who was a kid, who was a student leader, who worked with FCA, is now on staff at FCA.
That's me.
And it's just incredible to see it.
I went chasing a girl. That's why I went to the first FCA huddle, because there was a girl there I wanted to date.
Tracy.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I married her. So, but I mean, that's why I went. But the coach was like yourself, Kirby Phillips. He was dynamic. He was energetic. The kids loved him. And he was getting it going, and she was going, so I'm going.
Yeah.
And I went there to find a girl, and I found Christ.
Yeah.
And my life has never been, so that as a coach, I became a huddle leader, and now I'm on your board and trying to serve in whatever capacity you need me to be. But
very thankful.
It has been life-changing for you, life-changing for me, and it's life-changing for a lot of kids. I want to finish with the banquet coming up.
Yeah.
So we April 4th,
Yes.
2025.
Yep.
At Wren Lake,
Yep.
there is going to be a banquet. And I think when we talk about this, Ross is going to put up an image of the flyer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so April 4th at 6 p.m. at Wren Lake College. We have a speaker, Hollis Conway. He's a two-time Olympic athlete. He's down in the Arkansas area, but he's been on staff actually for FCA for 18 years.
High jumper?
High jumper.
Yeah.
So we reached out to him through mutual friends and whatnot, and he said, "Oh, absolutely, I'd love to come and talk." And having somebody who's been on staff for FCA to speak what FCA is doing over an 18-year period, I think is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just a night of fundraising. It is a fundraiser that night.
Right.
And a specific goal that we have for Southern Illinois FCA for the budgets for all of us, all 4 of us on staff and helping out our huddles is $50,000 for that night.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, I'm like, holy cow, $50,000, but that can go pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or that can come really quick too. So that's encouragement for us, knowing that there's people out there, they want to give to it. They want to help us. And they want to give us resources.
Absolutely.
And I've had so many people tell me when I ask them for money, just to be honest with you, they know where it specifically is going to. They can't get it out fast enough to help us. Yeah. And I think this is a perfect evening for that, to hear testimonies from coaches and athletes and Hollis, and then ourselves as well, me, Brian, and Britt, get to share the gospel of what's happening here in Southern Illinois. There is a movement happening here. Yeah. There's a movement happening throughout the country. If you turn on ESPN, you turn on these televisions, Ohio State football, there's kids getting baptized like crazy at practices. Yeah. ESPN's talking about faith. Holy cow.
Players are thanking Jesus right after the Super Bowl.
Boom. There's something
coaches are
happening that you can't put your tongue on it, but I think it's called revival. I think there is a huge revival coming, and that's one of the goals that I had when I came on staff. I believe revival is coming here in Southern Illinois. It's going to happen at a practice. It's going to happen on a field. It might happen at the banquet. I do not know. But I just know that's a night on April 4th to share and hear more about what FCA is doing in your counties. Yeah. From Amen. Salem to Cairo, from river to river. We're going to have everything included that night, and that's our goal for that evening. Yeah.
So, people watching and listening, if you're interested, you'll be able to contact me, you can contact Austin about being a table sponsor, being someone that wants to attend and hear Hollis Conway and be a part and listen and share. But you're right, it is a fundraiser, and it's to gather people who are wanting or interested in donating to FCA and helping this ministry to continue doing what it's doing. And I appreciate you sharing that. I've been going to banquets for a long time, and there has not been a single time. I've left every one of those banquets inspired by what I heard, sometimes by the guest speaker, sometimes by the coaches, but every time by the kids I heard give their testimony. College athletes, high school athletes who tell you straightforward, this is what it's done in my life. So it's a beautiful thing, and I don't know let me finish with this. What is your goal? What is your goal for this area, for FCA? What you're building? You've got 17 huddles, but what's your goal? What's next for you? What do you hope?
Yeah, that's a great question. To know God and make God known is huge in this area. Yeah. To get more coaches and athletes to build that relationship, to lead. Our mission statement is to lead every coach and athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Right. And I know this. I have 17 huddles. There's a lot more coaches out there. Yeah. There's a lot more students that have not heard about the gospel of Jesus Christ.
You're right.
That is one of the biggest goals I have for myself. Yeah. I told Brian when I took this job, I want to, in 30 years, be able to hand the papers and the notebooks that I all have and give it to the next up-and-coming kid, adult, young adult, and say, keep this thing rolling. Amen. That's the goal for me. It's not about me. It's about giving God the glory. Our theme this year is all glory to God. Amen. And I just think that's one of the biggest things for me. My purpose, my why, is to keep telling these coaches, keep loving on them, keep telling them about Jesus, and meet them where they're at. Yeah. And have a conversation with them about maybe just baseball or football or their family. And that relationship continues to build organically. I think I love that aspect of it. So that's my purpose.
Well, I can tell your passion is there. I knew it would be evident. And that's, you're here because of your athletic career. You're here because of your coaching career. You're here because of what you're doing in FCA, and it's a great thing. And I'm proud of you. And
this is my home. Yeah, and I want to see it successful in the name of the Lord.
Well, you're doing it, partner. It's a blessing to watch, and I leave every conversation you and I have either on the phone or over a cup of coffee inspired. And so keep it up. Same. Talk about your wife.
Yeah. Best thing that's ever happened to me other than accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Yeah. Haley, she's a teacher over at Parish Elementary over in Carbondale. She takes care of kindergartners. God bless her soul. She has 19 little ones she deals with every day.
Yeah.
But she comes home and she leaves work at work.
Yeah.
And she comes home with a smile on her face every single day, for the most part, unless she gets bit. And then that's a problem. But she has made me a better man.
Yeah.
A girl that I should have been with for 10 plus years, but I was a dumb male and chased other things and other people. And she sat there and wait. And she told her parents the first time I blew her off, he'll be my husband one day.
What was the matter with you?
Immaturity,
it's an
spiritual immaturity, male, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But very thankful for Haley
Yeah.
and the life that we share. And
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier with a godly woman to help me in this ministry and having life together, especially after the loss of my mother.
Sure.
She was there for me.
Yeah.
Because we got married and 3 months later that happened.
Yeah.
And she's been with me through really tough times really quickly. And we've had a lot of really cool adventures. And I think we're just getting started.
Yeah, I do too. And she's a talented singer.
Yeah, she's really good at singing. She wouldn't tell you that. She'd have opportunities to go down to Nashville and Tennessee, and she said, "I don't want that life."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I mean, let's think about that really quickly. Let's hold on." But no, she leads worship at our church at Christian Covenant in Carterville, and co-leads. And she's a incredible person.
Yeah. Well, let me say this: I've enjoyed getting to know her. I loved your mama. And I loved your dad, and they were great football parents, but they became, especially your mom, became a little closer to her over time, but great lady, and we miss her and her sassy way about her. She was awesome. And I taught your sisters as well in school, and been blessed by your family, been blessed by our relationship, your career as a player and a coach. You have blessed me many times over with your commitment to everything that I've been involved in. So thank you for that. And thanks for sharing today.
Yeah, it was an honor to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful, great conversation. And thank you for tuning in. I want to thank again Crown Brew. I want to thank Ross and Abby. This adventure started a couple seasons ago, and we're into about 40 episodes now. And just the wisdom, the nuggets of knowledge, and the experiences that are being shared, and just a lot of great things have come from this podcast, far greater than I even expected. And it's because of guests like Austin Dickson. And I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline again, and appreciate all of you tuning in and sending me those messages when you catch one and you say, man, that was really good. That means a lot to me. And I hope this has value for young coaches, old coaches, people that just want to listen to something positive and something good. We thank you for tuning in and listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.